Good evening, this is Angela with Progress Permaculture. Thanks for understanding while I've taken a week off to deal with some community advocacy things. Our coalition that is working on trying to create a better Park Rose and Argay community testified before Multnomah County Commissioners this past week. We've had lots of meetings and working on lots of good organizing and activism to help make a better community. And I needed to take some time off for that. Also working on some kind of heavy lifting for family things right now that's taking up a lot of my time. But I have several videos that are sitting actually on this phone waiting to be edited. And I wanted to take a little time in the garden this evening and talk to you all. So one of the things that I try to stress and emphasize on this channel a lot is setting realistic expectations. I have a video on good, better, best, and how we can't always aspire to do the very best in every situation. There are unexpected life events that happen. There are limitations on us in terms of energy and finances and hours in the day and other obligations. There is just the reality that things come up when we don't expect it, and the best laid plans of mice and men, right? And I think that's really important when we're talking about permaculture. It's important when we're talking about any aspect of sustainable living. We need to set realistic goals for ourselves. And I think it can be difficult when we have really big dreams about what we want to do with our permaculture, or we have a really strong motivation to want to create a better community, a better garden, a better situation with our home, something that's more sustainable, more abundant, where there's more connection, more resilience. And it can be frustrating to realize that our plans don't necessarily have the same trajectory as our ability to implement them. And I know that's been very, very true for me. I have way more on my to-do list than I can ever hope to get done. And I have to continue to check myself and say, Angela, it's okay if you get 60% of the things done on your checklist. It's okay if you get 30% of the things done. You are making forward progress. And permaculture talks about this, right? Permaculture design principles are a set of guidelines to help us be more effective in creating and implementing our plans for resilient communities and resilient gardens. And so, while they may need tweaking, and while they were created by a perfectly, human person who is fallible and perfectly imperfect, I think that those 12 guiding principles are very well thought out, and David Holmgren did a really good job of looking at the various facets of permaculture and the way that we as humans engage with each other and with the world around us and with our gardens, and saying these are 12 important guiding principles to tap into and to remember. And for me, that principle, slow, small solutions, is one that I think exemplifies the way that permaculture is not meant to be, this race to the finish line. And it's not meant to be something that is overwhelmingly stressful and all-consuming. I've talked in the past about slow, small solutions and things like permablitzes and these bursts of energy that we can put into our permaculture system, whether it be through something like a permablitz where you have a whole community come together to do kind of a barn raising situation where a permaculture garden is put in over the course of 1 or 2 or 3 days. It could be something where you as an individual suddenly have a windfall of resources, or you have a big gap in your schedule, or you have a big burst of energy and you knock out a large area of transformation at once. But those should not be typical in the way we think about permaculture and the way we address it. Slow, small solutions should be typical. And it's not just because when we make big sweeping changes, we can sometimes make changes that use a lot of resources, and then we find out afterward, like, gosh, I wish I had pumped the brakes a little bit, and I wish that I had done something a little bit smaller, because I put all of these resources into a big, massive transformation, and I'm not happy with certain aspects of it. And if I'd gone slower, maybe I could have anticipated those ways that my design was not as good as it could have been. But I think the other part of Slow Small Solutions is emphasizing that we've got to pace ourselves, right? It's saying that not only is there a benefit to the design, but there's a benefit to the designer in going slow. And there is a grace in reminding ourselves that we don't have to be in a race, that we don't have to accomplish everything incredibly fast. And I just want to encourage folks and remind you that this garden is 14 years old, and I've been doing permaculture for more than 2 decades. So when you see things on my channel and see like, oh my gosh, look at this polyculture, and look like how verdant and enormous everything is. You can also look at my greenhouse and see that this is more than 2 years in the making, and I still don't have all the windows in, so it's still not functional. There are elements of my garden that are really mature and are really productive, and there's things that are in process and are taking way longer than I had originally planned, and that's okay. And I think when you look at your own garden, I hope that you'll be okay with the fact that parts of it are in process and parts of it aren't where you want them to be. And I think it's okay to have that kind of discontent and have it want to push you forward. But there's also a lot of goodness in recognizing that, oh, my sister's here. Okay, sorry, my sister stopped by and we had to chat for a couple of minutes. So with Slow Small Solutions, I think that it's good to come back to that principle over and over and over again. If we're going to have the endurance to do something like install a permanent garden and to make permanent changes in our culture, then we've got to be able to pace ourselves. And when we look at YouTubers, even permaculture YouTubers, there's a lot of emphasis on like quick change, dramatic change, because that gets views, right? Like that's appealing, it's catchy. And the reality is, I think most of us don't have the budget for something like that. Most of us don't have the ability to go and, buy 100 acres in New England and transform it into a permaculture food forest and whatever intentional community or whatever we're doing. Most of us have very limited time and ability and resources. And it can be disheartening to feel like everybody else is doing more, or people who are prominent, people who are putting themselves out there are doing more and more quickly. And I think it's really important to remind ourselves that those folks probably have more resources than we do. Maybe in terms of financial resources, but also in terms of maybe they're not working another job, maybe their whole job is permaculture. And so they have the hours that they can dedicate to it. Slow Small Solutions is something that I would just encourage you to remind yourself of, and I need to remind myself of it when I get frustrated with things like my unfinished greenhouse, when I get frustrated with the fact that I am so anxious to get there that I lose sight of the journey in the interim. I don't want to do that, because designing, implementing, tweaking, establishing, enjoying a permaculture garden, all of that process is part of the yield that we're getting. Permaculture principle, obtain a yield. The process and the enjoyment of the process is so valuable. In fact, I did a video ages ago where I talked about why it's good to be a beginner in permaculture. How great it is to be starting out your journey and being able to pause and enjoy each step along the way and enjoy the process of selecting and planting and being intentional in your design. How great that is. And so you don't want to rush that. If you're new to permaculture, I would really encourage you not to rush that, but to embrace Slow Small Solutions and enjoy those stages in the process, right? Enjoy where the journey is taking you. And with that, it is a holiday coming up and I hear fireworks going, and I think that means I need to go in and give my dogs some trazodone because it's probably going to be a loud night. Please take care of yourselves and stay safe this holiday. I'll be back real soon. Bye-bye.